Howdy YouTubers, salute. Now, the last tutorial I showed these, I was putting these pieces on, and this was not covered yet. So as you can see here, I have continued to add on. This is the armor plate. This is 2 layers of paper. The base layer and then the armor plate that's on there. Now, I sanded every one of these edges so that when you paint this, what it does, it actually looks like armor. Now, there's a walkway for Warhammer guys on the top of these tracks. And that's what I did. All the punch outs I needed for these pieces, I took out of this grid work that I built. I drew it all out, and then I punched in between all the lines so that I could have this walkway. Now, as you can see, I've got metal pins in here. All right, these are heavy paper clips. I drilled these 4 places, put them in, and then I glued them to this paper, because a pewter figure will not stand on this. The paper will fall over. And so I had to reinforce it just like a regular structure would be. Any walkway that you have up in the air has metal ribbing underneath it to hold it in place. You can also see that I'm starting to put on these track plate, I guess they would be called grousers or treads, or something to give them traction. And so anyway, I've got those I'm working on. Now I want to show you this. This is what I've got. Now I learned something. When I cut these first ones, they were wobbled like that. Even though I was very, very good at cutting, they didn't work well. So I used these Fiskars, all right, that Joe Pelosi sent me. And what I do is I just cut them 1 inch at a time. All right, now this gives me a straighter cut, not so much wobble. And so I don't have narrow ones and fat ones, and the symmetry looks so much better when you do it this way. And I wished I would have thought of this before. I did not, and that happens when you're building. You get something built and you go, gosh darn it, I wished I would have done that a little bit different. And so the next time you do it different. And so this is the cool thing about this. Those cut like that, then you just grab a hold of them and you cut them all off at the same time. Ta-da! And I put them all in that one little, I put them in here. That way they don't get lost, they don't get kicked around, and I don't have to make extra ones because I lost a bunch of them. And believe me, when you're working with thousands of pieces, you lose pieces. I try not to. The reason I do is because it takes enough time to build something like this that you don't want to have to waste more time building something you already built. And the cool thing about this, it's different than a model kit. If you lose a part on your model kit, oh, you're done. Okay, there are no extras. If you lose a part building paper toys, you just build a new part. And so you will never ever have that problem. And I know model builders. I know well, I built models for years. I lost parts. Okay? It's very difficult to build your model when you're missing a crucial piece. I don't have that problem anymore. I've ran over pieces of my chair and crushed them. Had to make a new one. And so that's one of the coolest things about building with paper, is that you're never out of parts because you make more. I'm also going to show you one other thing that I don't know as I covered. Maybe I did, but since this is another tutorial for the Warhammer tank, and this will be tutorial number 5 that I'm doing right here. And I'm going to a brief summation of some of the stuff. Some of these things you may have seen in an earlier video, but it's like what I'm doing right here. This I know you haven't seen in an earlier video because I'm just now doing it to the first track. and those cut off just like that. And anyway, enough of that. Okay, what I'm doing here is, it takes 85 of these Q-tips to make one set of tracks. Since I have another set to do, I'm cutting these. All right. Just grab them like that, put it down here, and that gets thrown away. Now, the reason I'm pushing this edge up is because the Q-tips are not long enough to get your 2 marks on here unless you take and slide this up. Oh, Honey Bunny's coming to the computer. There we go. All right, sweetheart. Nice to see you. I'm shooting a video, and so I'm letting everybody know some of the stuff that they may have already seen, but I'm reiterating. I'll get that right, of stuff that I've already probably done. But you grab it right like that, like this, so this doesn't shoot somewhere, because then later on all you're doing is picking up all these little cut parts, and that gets to be a pain in the backside, that's for sure. So I just grab it with my fingers like so, and snip, put this down in the pile where it's snipped off at, and then I go for the next one. Okay. Sometimes my dyslexia, I drop the wrong part of the Q-tip in the pile. And I don't know if that's dyslexic or if it's, I don't know what it is. But anyway, you have to do this. Jeez. 85 times you got to do this. But if you're building a Warhammer tank like mine, you may find that you have 86 or maybe 75. It all depends on what size tank you decide to build. And my opinion on this Warhammer deal, any of you all out there that want to build your own Paper Army Warhammer tanks, don't make the same one I'm making. Just use my principles to build whatever one you'd like to build. Because the principles are the same. It doesn't matter what tank you build. It all is the same kind of a build. And so these things I teach you, they are all universal. All right? And maybe you want to build an Abrams tank or a Tiger, you know, or a World War I tank. Okay? All of the things I teach you how to do on this tank are universal. You can build any one you want. That's the coolest thing about this hobby. You're not stuck with what I do. You can do anything you want once you learn this. And considering it's made with recycled paper from your house, at least in America and Canada and stuff like that, and Britain, places like that, you can get all this cardstock for free. Uh-oh. There we go. And Elmer's glue or PVA, equally cheap. All right? You figure these, I can get these at the dollar store. I have an itch. Oh, good. It's a Q-tip. Anyway, $1.50 at the dollar store. All right? And I'm sure that PVA glue in Europe is equally inexpensive. And Q-tips, I get 300 of these at the dollar store for $1.50. Now, I am going to go back to the dollar store, and I'm going to check out all of the boxes that they got. And I'm hoping that they have some of these plastic Q-tips in black. Because if they do, I'm buying a couple of boxes of them. Because it's a lot easier to use a black plastic Q-tip instead of a red one. I have to paint these red ones black. And then you get places like this where the color is breaking off and the black is the red showing through. So anyway, these are the things that you learn over time. The more you build, the more you learn. And since I advocate never stop learning, this is something that will help train your brain and help you out. You know, they talk about Alzheimer's, and I see all these little games on my phone that goes, oh, 85% of seniors play this game to stop brain loss. Well, that's a load of you-know-what. Anyway, because we know that 85% of seniors don't do that, but they do advocate keeping your brain young. Well, this hobby right here will do it, because you're trying to figure out how to take something that's just normal everyday stuff and build something with it. All right, now these Q-tips, for example, all right, I've used them many times before. All right, I did not want the Daleks' appendages to break easily. I used plastic Q-tips, painted them, and built them into the Dalek. I used them for this because the plastic on the paint job and the rollers is more than likely never going to wear out, because I made this. All right, now these track pieces, I push them down on this pin, then I thread them onto dental floss. Dental floss is a nylon thread. All right, now something I do is when I tie my dental floss together, because you can't make a long enough piece. It disintegrates as you pull it and pull it and pull it and pull it. You do it enough times, and the nylon actually separates. All right, so I only take a 2-foot piece, and which actually, when you think about it, when you put it on your track block, when you put it on here and run it down, it's 2 feet long. Well, it's doubled. So I use a 4-foot piece to build one side of the track. All right, so when you're building your tracks, that dental floss is 2 layers of dental floss in each side of the track. So your tracks basically are held together with 4 lines of dental floss, which is very, very, very durable stuff. You know it's durable when you can put it in between your hands and try to break it. It does not want to break. It'll cut your fingers. And so don't do that, please. And so anyway, you just keep doing this until you're done. And somebody wanted me to do a video, and I will do this on my tools. All right, I highly recommend, if you can afford it, get a Dremel light and buy the big box of attachments that come with it, because what you end up with is cutting wheels. You have this little sanding pad. This is super time consuming. I do a lot of work with this, and you guys have seen me do a lot of work with it. Okay, and what it does is it saves you a lot of time. Another thing you're going to need, toenail clippers. All right, these things come in so handy for many things you need to do. Okay, I can show you something that's very important right at this time. I worked in the sheet metal industry. We had a machine that was, actually it was a big piece of steel. It's called a brake. All right, now what a brake does is you put a piece of metal into it and clamp it down, and then you can bend it, all right, along flat sheets. Now, paper clips, you can get these at Wally World, super cheap, a lot of them. I learned this in the gray bar, all right? I saw this because I was thinking, how do I straighten out my paper clips? And I went, wow, that's actually a brake. You stick it in here when it's open, like this. Then you clamp it down. All right, now what that does is that locks this paper clip in. Now what I can do is I can use my thumbnail or my thumb on this, and I can start bending it. And what I'm doing is I am taking the bend out of the paper clip, and it's controllable. If you've got, all right, if you have needle nose pliers, you don't need this. If you do not have needle nose pliers to do your work, then you can use a set of toenail clippers. You can get these at the dollar store too. I've got actually 4 or 5 sets of these, because before I had all this stuff, I had to be able to cut this wire in the Gray Bar Motel. I knew that I could take this, clamp it down into these jaws here, and then bend it back and forth. As I'm squeezing this, I'm bending this back and forth. Okay, now what it does is it cuts that off. Now I have a piece of wire that I need to build something with, the right size, because I measure it, then I stick it in these jaws and I just work it. Now, as you can see, that straightened that and put a little bend on that. Didn't straighten it. So anyway, then what I do is I just stick it back in there. Ta-da! Now I have another straight piece. I want to take this other bend out of it. So what I do is I just stick it down in there, and then I clamp it down nice and tight like that. And then I can absolutely start working this out like that. And there's another piece. Reasonably straight enough that you can use it to work with. Because you can always, take a little bit of the bend out of it some more without these. But anyway, that is how you work different types of parts. From household stuff that you need to do this with. Okay, so where am I at now? I'm right here. I also love these little steel rules. All right, this is a machinist steel rule. It has metric on one side and American on the other, or U.S. standard and metric. This is the best ruler I've ever had. By far, I use this more than anything else, as far as measurements go. And over time, you eventually get lots of parts, okay? As you can see, I've collected stuff for years. I bought these at Wally World 4 years ago. I bought the little ones because you need the little paper clips for little wires, and the big ones. And then all these push pins and different things I've collected here and there. All right? These come in handy. If you can find them at a garage sale for 25 cents or 50 cents, get them. Even if they're full of junk. Yes, if it's teeny tiny junk, you can use it. If it's not, just throw it away, keep the box. And so, what all of this does is this allows you to do things. Mechanical pencil. All right, this is 5.0, and I should say 0.5 lead. Yeah, I got 3 of these 3 years ago at Wally World. I think they were back then. I think they were 75 cents or $1.75 or something. They were cheap. I bought a bunch of lead. I put all the leads into one container, and you never have to sharpen these. All right, you just think, and you got a brand new point. Use these a lot. You will also need some kind of a Sharpie, a small one, because when you're marking on your metal, to get the length you need, you have to use a Sharpie. Okay, what else should I show you? This is what I'm going to be working on today. I'm going to be doing the detail work on this, so that when I get the tracks made, I can actually start to do this setup here. And now I should show you one other thing. I have a bunch of paint brushes. All right, now, this is just old cups. This was a spray can cup. This was a cup off of something else, I don't remember. Keep my water in this. It won't spill inside of that. And what I've got going on right now is I've got this, I call it muck brown. It's actually more like battleship gray is what it is. And now, since I have got this stuff all completely dry and reinforced, now I want to go ahead and start painting this stuff because it's detail work that needs to be done. And so this is it. You just, once you get each section done, paint ahead of time if you can. All right. This is something that I needed to make sure that this went on there correctly. And so I did not paint them ahead of time. But a lot of everything that I've got going on is painted ahead of time. And so it's very difficult to see this, but I can show you here. Remember I told you about sanding the edge of your armor. You can see it right there. All right, now when the paint dries, those divots or that armor stands out. You get to see it really well. And these are all just building principles that I've learned over many years. And a lot of this that I'm teaching you right now is stuff I learned when I built model kits. Now, something else too. The, okay. I just found something right here. This came off. Okay, now this is going to happen to you. There's times when this will happen. That piece came off. Okay, so the fastest way to fix something like that is to put it right back on immediately. And then you line it up with the other stuff. And you hold it into place. That one's tight, that one's tight, that one's tight. All right, I just had problems with one. Now, something I will do also is I will not paint that right now because the paint is wet and you don't want to add that extra wet to the paper. So I'll just go around that like so, because I can touch that up later. That's not going to be difficult. Ha! Alrighty. Now, when you make your little punch outs, sometimes two of them stick together. And you're not even going to notice that until you get ready to paint, and it'll push one of the pieces off. So you just grab hold of it and take it off of there and just keep going. These are all little tricks that you learn over years of building. And something like this, it doesn't take patience to do this, you guys. Anybody, even with my ADHD, I can work an hour. All right, but the thing is, I've learned that ADHD is a good thing because it's like I work on these for half an hour or 45 minutes, and then I go to working on something else, which is completely different than what I'm doing. All right, now, because it's completely different than what I'm working on earlier, it's like you're still working on the same thing. It's just a different part of it. And because it is a different part of it, you absolutely don't notice that you're still working on the same thing. It's because you're working on different parts. And that's the cool thing. And here's something else too. If, say, you're getting really tired of working on your Warhammer tank, all right, put it up. Shoot, just put it up and start building something else. Build something simple. All right, make some micro machines. Because the micro machine, in a couple of days, you can have one completed, which gives you the satisfaction of having something done for your week's work. And believe me, I have a lot of different brushes. Every time I was at a garage sale for the last 4 years and I seen some brushes, if they were in decent shape, I got them. Because I could usually get 6 or 7 brushes for 50 cents or a quarter. Saves you a lot of money. I was at Wally World one time and I seen they had a sale on these brushes. It was a 6-pack. Shoot, I think I got the whole 6-pack of brushes for $2. Okay? Get them. Because as long as you take care of your tools, they'll last you for years. Now, a lot of these things, you're going to have to go over them a second coat. Now, I used distressed paper on this armor. And so once the paint dries, you can actually see the wrinkles and crinkles in it because it's like battle damage. And so that's what you have to do, is you just have to practice. Okay? Anything you do, if you keep learning, doesn't matter what it is, you take all these pros out there, baseball, basketball, golf, bowling, doesn't matter what it is. These pros, they practice all the time. You don't have to be good. You just have to practice a lot. If you practice a lot, you'll get good. That's the nature of humanity. All right? Cavemen, back in the day, all right? They finally got tired of trying to save their fire and learned how to make it. Okay? Now, that has had enough time to adhere well. So now I just paint that up. And I turn it over and around and stuff like this, and I look for spots that are missing paint, because it's fairly easy to see when you first start putting this stuff on here as to what you're missing as far as what needs to be painted. And so, ta-da! Now, you can see, wow, that grill work really looks good. But you can see, like right here, the armor, the way it goes together. And it shows once it's painted. All right, you guys, that's tutorial number 5. I hope you enjoy building. I do. It really helps your brain. It does. Take care, Paper Army. We love you a lot. We'll see you soon.